So I don't know what the blonde girl's name is in this picture, but we called her Rosa the other day in my other class, so we're just going to call her Rosa today. And then Magali is the African-American lady. And then Luis is this young chap from Colombia. Okay, so we'll have Vita be Magali, we'll have Emma be Rosa, and then we'll go gender correct, and we'll let you be Luis Owen. So give me just a second to check my phone. See if, oh, I mean, me and my Okay. All right, go ahead and start it. So it starts with Rosa.
Okay.
You got the blonde one.
I don't know how to pronounce that first word.
Magali.
Magali, te presento a Luis. Es un alumno nuevo aquí.
Okay.
Mucho gusto, Luis. ¿De dónde eres?
Soy de Colombia.
Emma, you missed it there. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Luis está en mi clase de español y okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Bien habla, me encanta su I can't go.
Acento.
Acento.
Con permiso, tengo que ir a clase de biología. Empieza ahora.
Biología. So
What?
remember, it's ahora. Remember, H is always silent. Ahora. Okay.
What's the first word? How do you pronounce it?
Ciao. It's straight from Italian.
Ciao?
Hello or goodbye. Same both hello and goodbye.
Okay, ciao, Luis. Hasta pronto.
Not you again, B.
Oh, yeah. Luis me parece un buen tipo.
Es bien educado.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the first one. I have to do the other one first. Tiene una personalidad que me gusta. Es bien educado y siempre está de buen humor.
Humor. Está, not esta. Esta is this. Está is. Magali? Vita?
Oh, okay. Sorry. ¿Ves la sonrisa que tiene?
Sí, sí. ¿Y qué piensas?
Piensas.
Piensas está bastante guapo, no?
Okay. So what's happening in this conversation? I think these girls really like this guy, right? They're just handing out the compliments left and right to this guy. So what does Magali like about him? Magali says, ¿ves la sonrisa que tiene? So she likes his what? She likes his smile. Sonrisa. Yeah. That one. This is all acting, right? And what is Rosa like about him? I mean, there's so many things. She starts, right? Tiene una personalidad que me gusta. She goes, I really like his personality. He's well-mannered. Y siempre está de buen humor. And he's always in a good mood. And then she goes, and then the last thing, which usually girls say first, sí, y qué piensa? Es bastante guapo, no? He's rather good looking, isn't he? So these girls are, the very first thing she says, she goes, and I really dig, I'm delighted by his accent. And he speaks Spanish very well. Well, of course, he's from Colombia, right? Why is he even in the Spanish class? I don't get that. But so they're really, really impressed with him. He's probably an exchange student. But did you see his reaction to them? It's like, con permiso, tengo que ir a mi clase de biología. Empieza ahora. They're obviously on a different schedule than him. He's like, I gotta go, guys. I'll see you later. So biology class was obviously a little bit more exciting than sitting there talking to the girls. So she says, Luis me parece un buen tipo. What's tipo? Tipo is type, but it also means guy. Okay. So he seems like a really good guy. Es un buen tipo. It's a good guy. Because buen, remember, is the shortened version of bueno. When bueno precedes a singular masculine noun, you can chop off the O and it becomes buen. Es un buen tipo. So they're really impressed with him. That's kind of how girls are with guys. And yeah, he is. He's quite impressive. We all want to be like Luis, right? So she's got the girls going here. This is your typical. I mean, they're trying to keep you interested with this. These are always funny little cartoon things, but they try to go the typical teenager route here, right? Girls liking guys, guys liking girls. But what I found in this book, it's usually the girls checking out the guys. It's usually not the guys checking out the girls. So we're counterintuitive here, right? Girls tend to talk more about it. Guys just are less vocal, right? So these girls, if we were to see the rest of the conversation, they might start arguing about him. So, but it's just using descriptions. It's using a lot. Obviously, those Colombian men, they have this certain attraction for the girls. So yeah, he is a pretty impressive guy. May everybody find a Luis. May there be more, so that Rosa and Magali don't have to fight. Okay, let's look at página 214, the next page. So now we're going to start a reading, and this is more of a culture thing. Not that this reading is anything special in particular, but this is what is called, I think we say picaresque. A picaro in English, picaro in Spanish. So anybody familiar with what a hero is, right? Hero is someone who comes in and saves the day, whether it be a Robin Hood or a Superman or a Batman or something like that. But what's an anti-hero? Anybody have any idea what an anti-hero is?
It's somebody that you wouldn't usually expect to be a hero.
Well, you wouldn't expect them to be a hero, and they're really not a hero. So it sounds like they should be like the villain or something. But an anti-hero is the protagonist, right? What's the protagonist? The protagonist is the main character in the story. And when your hero is almost always the protagonist, right? Because it's all about them in different situations and whatever. But everything comes out. You remove the protagonist from a story, and you don't have the story anymore, right? That's how you prove the protagonist is, or it's another word for the main character, basically. the one who keeps the action, or yeah. Let me guess. Wikipedia taught you that. Yeah, so anti-hero, usually when something's anti, usually it's against, and then whatever the second word is. But you know, if I'm anti-government, then I'm against the government. I don't like government, or so. But it doesn't have that same exact meaning. If you're anti-hero, doesn't mean you're against the hero, though in a certain way. Generally, an anti-hero, like Owen typed. But they're not even really a hero because they haven't done anything to save the day for anybody. It's all about self. They're generally self-centered. Most of the time they're poor. And the anti-hero really started way back with one of the Greek scholars, you know, you can read on. Yeah, it's totally lacking heroic qualities. Yeah, there is no, they barely have any redeeming qualities, let alone heroic qualities. So, they're generally poor, and they're just striving to get wherever they are. A lot of times they're Robin Hood, but they're not stealing from the rich to give to the poor. They're stealing from the rich to give to themselves, kind of thing. They're generally they lack, you know, honesty and trustworthiness, and they lack really anything that would make you go. But have you ever found yourself where, and I can't think of any examples of movies. I don't watch too many movies. Or stories, even, for that matter. But have you ever seen yourself cheering for the bad person? The bad person because, I mean, they're overcoming against all odds, but yet they're overcoming the wrong people. It's a weird phenomena with humans. You know, because they're the protagonist, and they're not extremely evil, but they may not be doing right, but they're overcoming all these obstacles that they really shouldn't be overcoming, but you're still going for them, though they're a bad guy. It's an interesting juxtaposition for. But so this pícaro is always an anti-hero. So the pícaro is usually poor, and it's in Hispanic, and we may have them in English. I'm not aware of any stories in English where we have a pícaro. Or much. Can anybody think of any examples of stories where there's an anti-hero? I can't think of any like well-known, but I'm not well-read. I mean, I've read a lot of the classics because I've had to for class, but I'm not like Mark Twain. I mean, not Mark Twain, but Tom Sawyer, right? Tom Sawyer's kind of an anti-hero, isn't he? He's the protagonist. He's the main character. Or is it Huck Finn I'm thinking of? Who is the really badly behaved one? Maybe it's Huck Finn. Huck Finn, I think. And anybody ever read Huck Finn? He's just this little bratty kid that goes off on all these adventures. And he's not doing right by the law. He's not doing what he's supposed to. He's kind of, okay, Hamlet. He's kind of a anti-socialist, almost anarchist, right? He goes against all these adults. He's just a kid, and he's running around, running amok here, running amok there. But yet you're voting for him. You're rooting for him because, yeah, he made it away. Yeah, you'll get away. You know, and these are upstanding citizens that are trying to uphold the law, but they're put in the negative light. And he's meant to be, you're rooting for him. You know, how many people showed up at his funeral? You know, those kind of things. I think Huck Finn's kind of an anti-hero. It's just, he's just trying to get by with himself, for himself. He's not really trying to, so a hero, he betters everybody else, or he betters a cause, or he betters something. And he's kind of outside of himself, where Huck Finn, he's just, it's all about me and myself and getting what I need, and you know, and he's poor, and so he kind of fits this pícaro description. So they're almost always poor, from humble backgrounds, but they had that edgy, almost bad boy side to them. Like they break the law to get what they need, kind of like the Robin Hood, you know, scenario. Okay, so let's go ahead and read on page 214. So it's really a Spanish Hispanic genre. Yeah. You're an anti-hero, Emma. You know what they say about people that throw names at people and pick out faults in other people, right? Usually they have those themselves. I found that in the Bible too the other day. I was so happy. So if I'm telling you, you know, all kinds of, yeah, that's usually probably my faults too. So this one particular here, El Periquillo Sarnieto, is written by a Mexican author back in the 1700s, about the same time that the Mexican Revolution was going on. So the Mexican Revolution was what? You know, what was going on in the States at 1776, in the late 1700s? We were establishing ourselves, right? We were kicking out the British. And, you know, we finally got our independence in 1776. That's when we celebrate our birthday, right, as a nation. And so this about the same time, just a little bit later, the Mexicans are doing the same thing, trying to kick the Spaniards out. Obviously, a lot of them were Spaniards that had become Mexicans, but Spain became overbearing, and they did the same thing, like, okay, out with the old, in with the new. Except for they weren't as successful as setting up a proper government. So a lot of anti-heroes running around in Mexico right now. So this guy, this is credited with being the first Latin American Picaro story, or picaresque story. And so let's go ahead and start reading. Vita, go ahead and start with La literatura, I'll read this one. La literatura picaresca. La literatura tiene sus héroes y también sus antihéroes. En la literatura hispana hay un antihéroe especial, el pícaro. El pícaro es un muchacho humilde que no tiene dinero. Como es muy pobre, su vida es una lucha continua. Okay, so because they're poor, their life is always, it's a continual struggle. You know, they're struggling. You'll find in some of them just to get food, to have their basic needs. Okay, go ahead and read, Vita, El Periquillo Sarnieto.
How much?
The first paragraph.
Okay. El Periquillo Sarniento es
Periquillo. Periquillo.
Periquillo Sarniento es del autor mexicano Fernández de Lizardi. Periquillo no es como los otros pícaros típicos. Él no es pobre y asiste a la universidad, pero no le gusta trabajar, le falta ambición. Él no, es perezoso y pasa de una aventura a otra.
Okay, so el Periquillo Sarnieto no es como los otros pícaros. Es diferente. No es pobre. He's not poor. No es pobre. No es rico. It doesn't say that he's rich, pero no es pobre, because, you know, he's not poor because he's able to actually attend the university, and he leaves the university to kind of buck the system. So this is a very, very abridged version of this story. This was a complete novel. So this is one of the final stories. So he bounced around from person to person to person, taking advantage of this person, and when they finally get tired of him, he would go on to someone else and find some other unwitting soul to prey on. And it's just a one step at a time life, and transforming him into hopefully someone better. Okay. Go ahead, Owen. ¿Dónde estás, Owen?
Owen doesn't know where to start.
Second paragraph. Trabaja.
Trabaja como criado en casa de un médico. Habla mucho con el médico y lee sus libros sobre la medicina. Decide que el médico no es bueno y que no las trata bien a sus pacientes, Periquillo la roba al médico. Toma sus libros, una cantidad de dinero y su mula. En la mula va a un pueblo pequeño donde no hay médico. Finge ser médico y muy pronto tiene muchos pacientes. Creen que Periquillo es un médico atendiendo.
Auténtico. Okay, so what's going on with Periquillo here? He's got a lot going on in this paragraph. Okay, so this is one of the final people he's working with. So he's working as a criado, as a housekeeper. I mean, mind you, he was able to go to the university, but he got in people's lives and into their houses so that he could take advantage of them, right? This bad boy here. Okay, so who is he with right now? Criado en casa de un médico. So he's working for a doctor. He's a housekeeper for a doctor. And habla mucho con el médico y lee sus libros sobre la medicina. So he's not just there to take advantage of him, but, oh, hola. Hola, niña Maya. ¿Qué tal?
Sí, bien.
Estamos en página 214. Página 214.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can go ahead and mute while I'm discussing this.
What's the page again?
214.
Okay.
214.
Okay, it's 104, right? 204?
14. 14.
Oh, 14, almost got it.
14, sí. No 4, 14. Okay. So, he's gleaning all this information from this doctor, right? He says, habla mucho con el médico y lee sus libros. He's reading his medical books. Okay. Decide que el médico no es bueno y que no les trata bien a su paciente. So what does he think of this doctor? He said he's not good, and he doesn't feel that he treats his patients well. Okay, so he's kind of going to do something about this, right? He's in a way going to do something about this, but not really. So Periquillo le roba al médico. He robs him. And what does he take? Sus libros, una cantidad de dinero y su mula. What's mula? It's not money, right? So if you're in Spanish and you do the little finger thing, rub your fingers like, and say mula, it's not going to correspond really well. Mula, put an E on the end of mula instead of the A, and you have a mule, okay? So he needed a means of transportation. So he took some of the books so that he could look back. He took some money, because of course you need money to set up shop. And he took his mule. Okay. So en la mula va a un pueblo pequeño donde no hay médico. What does that say? No hay médico. Where there is not a doctor. Okay. So he goes to un pueblo pequeño, a small town. Finge ser médico y muy pronto tiene muchos pacientes. He pretends to be a doctor. And soon he has lots. Because back in the day, you didn't have some big, certificate that you put on the wall. And, I don't know what back in the 1700s, especially in a newly formed country, there were a lot of quacks. Remember, you see in old Westerns, even Westerns that are from the 1800s, and there's a lot of quacks, and they would sell all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so I mean, even recently, I don't know how many are familiar. It was probably last year or the year before. I think it came out early in 2016. There was this young African-American gentleman that set up a clinic, I think in Florida. And he had all kinds of patients, and he was probably no more than 25, 26 years old. He looked even younger than that, but I think he was about 24, 25, 26. And I don't know how they caught him, but finally someone got a hold of it and realized that he was practicing without a license. And he had all kinds of patients, and they just loved him. They thought he was the greatest. So, I mean, this is not only a thing of 200 years ago, and this happened just in the United States as recently as the last year. So it's the oldest trick in the book, right? Feigning to be something you are not, and making money off of it. I mean, it happens in other industries too, right? People pretend to be contractors, get your down payment money, and just flee. Or people pretend to be, or even as simple as pretending to be flood victims and get people to donate them money, or pretending to represent the Red Cross and get people to send donations to you personally instead of, so it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, but it's the scariest one because people are putting their lives in his hands, right? So let's see what happens here. Go ahead and read for us, Emma, the next paragraph.
Un día vi a un señor que está muy enfermo. Su familia está muy deprimida.
Ajá.
Para aliviar el dolor de
Estómago.
estómago que tiene el enfermo dirigido tratar una I don't know how to say that.
Mezcla
de cosas what?
horribles.
Horrible. Enfermo perico. El enfermo bebé. ¿Y qué pasa? El Señor abre los ojos, reconoce a su familia y les habla. La familia está muy alegre y todos le dan las gracias a su médico.
Is your brother tickling you or something? Okay, so look at the word the last word in that paragraph, medico, and the little carrots. I don't know what else we call it. Do we call those carrots in English? I think we call them carrots, like C-A-R-A-T kind of thing, like diamonds, something. So in English, what would we have in there? Because they're calling it says, and they give thanks to his doctor. Okay, so in English we'd put quotation marks, right? Like when we're questioning whether they are that, we put it in parentheses, or like when I'm talking to you, if I were reading this out loud, I'd use those air quotations, right? Yeah, like his doctor, or you change your intonation. So that for us in English, this would be the same as quotation marks. Okay, so what's happening in this paragraph? He's almost a hero here. He really is a hero to this family, right? And quite accidentally. So it doesn't say that he was, if you read the unabridged version, so what's abridged mean? It means shortened, right? So if you're reading the abridged version of a story, you're not getting all the details. So like we used to call them books on tape, but they're obviously not on tape anymore because most vehicles don't have them. So we call them books on CD and books, right? E-audiobooks. Well, we'll just say books, right? So if you're listening to an audiobook while you're traveling on a long road trip, which I really enjoy, it helps keep the driver awake. But if you're listening to an audiobook, you don't want the abridged version. The abridged version is usually like 6 hours long, whereas the unabridged version is more like 12 to 16 hours long. So this is a very, very, very abridged version. And in the unabridged version, it would tell you how he was very sick and nigh unto death and that kind of thing. This paragraph doesn't give us quite that meaning. So he says, one day he sees a señor, a gentleman. So if I say señores y señoras, I say ladies and gentlemen, okay? So, señor, he sees a gentleman that is very sick, muy enfermo. Su familia está deprimida, sad or depressed, right? And so what does he do for him? He has a dolor de estómago that has making him sick. Prepara una mezcla de cosas horribles, okay? And I'm sure in the real version, it tells us what all these ingredients are, or at least a partial list, right? So he puts together some horrible things. Not quite poison, but probably close to it when he tasted it. But so he gives it to him, and then what happens? He drinks it. Obviously, he's conscious enough to drink it. He's not. But it says, abre los ojos. He opens the eyes. Reconoce su familia. He recognizes his family, and he talks to them. And then everybody's happy, right? All the family's happy. La familia está muy alegre, y todos les dan las gracias a su médico. And everyone gives thanks to his, air quote, doctor, his quote doctor. So he's kind of turned a page here. Up until this point, like I said, this is kind of the changing point in the story. But before this, he was with a priest, and or I think they called him a friar. He was with a friar, and he was with some rich old man, and he took advantage of all these people, and then he would move on. And he generally moved on from town to town. He didn't stay in the same town because he got well known. And so he'd go far enough away. Because back then, news didn't travel like it does like now. So miraculously and quite accidentally, right, he cured this man. So now he's got something to live up to. I mean, here he is. He's been faking this doctor, being Mr. Doctor. And okay. So the last one, go ahead and read for us, Nehemiah, that last sentence there.
Periquillo tiene otras aventuras.
Aventuras.
Aventuras, pero poco a poco él cambia su mala conducta y vive como una persona responsable.
Muy bien. Okay. So this one has a good ending, right? Periquillo tiene otras aventuras, pero poco a poco él cambia. Little by little, he changes his mala conducta, his bad behavior or his bad conduct, and he lives happily ever after, right? As a responsible person. Okay. So maybe he gave up his medical practice or decided to go back to law school. We don't know a whole lot about him. But so this is considered the first actual Latin American novel, or the Hispanic novel of the New World, right? So this was very important. The author lived a fairly tragic life. My assumption from his picture here on that page is that he was probably of Spanish descent. He doesn't too much look like a native. And with that big old long name, you see what his long name is? So the J on the front stands for Jose. His name is Jose Joaquin Fernandez de Lizarde. Okay, so obviously each part of that name had some kind of pertinence or importance back then, but es un nombre muy grande, big name. Died at the age 50 of tuberculosis. So, but he was known as the Mexican thinker. So he was a well-known author. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, but a good majority of the really well-known authors, first of all, they generally become well-known close to or after their passing, and they pass away pretty young. And some of it's due to the times that they lived in, but some of them, a lot of writers lived with interpersonal struggles, a lot of struggles. So, but this guy, tuberculosis got him. Tuberculosis, right, is pretty much unheard of in the United States. We get shots for it, but a lot of times it comes in with new immigrants that haven't been around it, and they bring it in the United States. So some jobs require you to have updated shots and get actually a TV test. Okay, so let's look at really quickly. We'll look at the next one, página 216. Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys? Somebody say something if you can hear me.
218, right?
I can hear you.
Susie. Okay, did you hear me the whole time or did I cut out for a
I
bit?
can hear you fine.
Yeah, you didn't cut out.
Okay, that was really weird because my whole screen went black. And something came in like it had died. Okay, so 216. Okay, so he was more, he's from a Spanish writer, and actually an anonymous Spanish writer, but it is considered to be the first pícaro, or the picaresque anti-hero in Spanish literature, okay, which obviously goes back much further than Latin American literature, right? Latin America, so far as the history of the Europeans and everything, only really goes back as far as what our history does, right? Some of the Caribbean islands are a little bit further because they discovered those islands prior to discovering the United States. But Latin America, those countries are really just only as old as the same as the United States. So North and South America, with the exception, okay, so I'm not saying the history doesn't date back way farther, right? History goes way back further than any written history ever. But it's with the natives, and it's in hieroglyphics, or it's in whatever form of history taking they did. So, but current countries, how they're known, South and North and South America are only really as old. Whereas Europe, antique here in the United States is definitely not antique. So when you go to Europe, they kind of laugh at you. Like, oh, well, how old is it? Oh, 150 years old. They're like, oh, well, yeah, our family Bible goes back to the 1600s, and you're just kind of like, yeah, well, we won't talk about antiques in Europe. How about that? Okay, so Lazarillo de Tormes, he's another one. We'll just quickly, and again, this is an abridged or just a small excerpt, and it's been adapted to fit into a little one-page story for us. So Nehemiah, since you read such a short one, we'll go ahead and start with you with the first paragraph, and we'll go back to Vita.
It's page 218, right?
16.
Okay.
16. 216.
Okay. First paragraph?
Sí.
Okay. La primera novela picaresca, El Lazarillo de Tormes.
Lazarillo.
De Tormes, de un autor anónimo español.
Anónimo.
Lazarillo es un niño pobre de Salamanca. No tiene dinero y siempre tiene que confrontar muchos obstáculos, my bad. Pero en el joven no pierde su sentido de humor.
Okay. So Lazarillo is pobre, and he's always on that continual struggle. So he kind of really fits this picaresque or pícaro. Okay, go ahead, Vita.
La madre de Lazarillo no tiene marido. Es viuda. Ella gana muy poco dinero. Un día llega al hotel donde trabaja un señor ciego. La pobre madre está muy triste, pero como ella no tiene dinero, le da a su hijo al señor ciego.
Okay, so sometimes they don't mention families and stuff, but this one we see, él tiene madre, pero no tiene padre, ¿sí? No tiene padre, it says that what happened to his dad? He died, right? Because it says ella es viuda, she's a widow, okay? So, and she makes very little money. Ella gana muy poco dinero. So One day she goes to the hotel. It doesn't tell us what she's doing at the hotel. Maybe she works at the hotel. We don't know. But she meets a blind guy. I found that very interesting, that a blind guy, especially in those days, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was carrying luggage or, working in the cafeteria. It would seem to me a difficult job, but, anyway, so la pobre madre está muy triste. She's very sad. But seeing as how she had no money, su hijo al señor ciego. She gives her son, le da, she gives him to the blind guy. Okay, go ahead, Owen, and read down till we start the conversation.
Lazarillo es muy astuto y no tiene confianza en el ciego. Es un hombre cruel y trata muy mal a Lazarillo. Un día un señor le da al ciego un racimo de uvas. El ciego le habla a Lazarillo.
Lazarillo, okay? So this is not a good situation, okay? Es un hombre cruel y trata muy mal a Lazarillo. He's a cruel man, and he mistreats, or he treats badly, and treats Lazarus badly. Okay, so one day, someone obviously and I know from reading the story in its length and its entirety that this guy doesn't have much money either, but yet he had more than his mom had. So when he was willing to take him, he obviously took him to be a slave of some kind. To work for him and work hard. So someone gives him a bunch of grapes. Okay, so then they strike up this deal. Go ahead and Emma, read down to the second Lazarillo.
Where do I start?
Be right back. Where the conversation where your brothers ended.
Where did you get? Sí, señor. Is that what it says?
That one.
Lazarillo, yo voy a comer una uva cada vez que yo como uno. Tú puedes comer una también. Me prometes comer solamente una.
She said to read until the next Lazarillo, like the next part where it begins.
Sí, señor. El ciego empieza a comer y cuántas uvas come. Una, no, como dos. Como dos. Luego, el ciego le da el racimo a Lazarillo y Lazarillo empieza a comer. ¿Cuántos uvas como? Uno, dos. Uno, dos. Okay, no. Lazarillo come tres.
Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead and do that. 2 o'clock. Can we do 2:30? I have class. Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right, thanks. Bye. Sorry about that, guys. Every once in a while, there are some phone calls that are just important. Sorry about that. Okay, literally nothing funny is happening, but Emma has a different sense of humor, Owen. Okay, so to be finished. So what's going on here? So he makes a deal. He says, I'm going to eat a grape, and every time that I eat a grape, do you promise me that you'll just eat one grape? He says, so it's a deal. So obviously these grapes are a big deal, right? Obviously, getting a bunch of grapes from somebody is a really big deal because they're poor and they're hungry. So where did you read to? No Lazarillo como tres? That we read down to?
I read down to the No.
No, senor? Okay, so anyways, I'll let you finish reading this. So what happens here is that he ends up, he didn't eat just one or two. But the blind guy ate two. So, I mean, how was Lazarillo supposed to follow when, so he ends up accusing him of breaking the deal. And then Lazarillo, like the little smarty pants that he is, he says, but you broke it first, not me. You know, so that's kind of the end of it. But like I said, these are little pieces out of it. And the end to Lazarillo at the end of the book, I don't know that he reforms like Periquillo Sarnieto did. I don't think he was as grand and noble as I don't think he comes full circle like that. So, but anyways, these two stories, these will put you ahead for your homework. So, and we've talked about them. So your homework, I have it listed. I purposely did almost all of last week's homework to be online so that you could do them by the deadline. There was only one paper you actually had to print out or write out separate. So I do have the new homework posted for next week. And it is 215 and 217 are part of it. So they should be really easy since we basically discussed them. So homework's posted. Hay preguntas? Are there any questions on anything? Bueno, mis estudiantes.
We're gonna do our homework this week.
Yay! Are you speaking for the collective here? You're speaking for the whole class. We're all gonna do our homework. Okay,
No.
Okay, so
Maybe.
you, as in you. You're saying I am we. Okay. I think everybody will. I just have that faith in everybody. I know everybody wants to get a good grade in this class because they absolutely adore Spanish class. If you don't agree, it's okay. I honestly, I don't have to know, but let me live in my dream fantasy world. Okay. Adios, clase.
Adios, hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Oh, Nehemiah.
Yeah.
Nehemiah, on your papers your mom was needing.
Yeah.
I was out of town when she contacted me, and I had planned on sending them out Monday, but Monday was a holiday, and then Tuesday it just totally blew by me. So I could send them out in today's mail because my mail hasn't come yet, or I could just drop it. I don't know how soon you need them, but do you know when your seniors? Okay, so I'll put them in the mail today then, and you should have them either by tomorrow or Friday at the latest.
Okay. We'll probably have to send it back to her, to our CT, because she already came, so we're sending this stuff
she already came?
Yeah, so we're going to send it to her.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, when your mom contacted me, I was out of town, and I didn't have access to them, so sorry about that.
Okay. That's fine.
I'll send them to you then. Okay, sounds good. We'll see you hasta lunes.
Okay. See ya.
Okay.
See you on Monday.
Adios. All right, see you hasta lunes.